Hollow Creek. A name that conjured images of idyllic life. White picket fences, children's laughter echoing in the park, neighbors greeting each other with warm smiles. It was the kind of town where people dreamed of raising families, a sanctuary from the harsh realities of the outside world. The heart of Hollow Creek pulsed with a vibrant energy. Local businesses thrived, their windows adorned with colorful displays. The town square, a hub of activity, hosted farmers markets bursting with fresh produce and handmade crafts. There was a sense of community that ran deep, a shared history and pride that bound the residents together. At the helm of this seemingly perfect town stood Mayor Caldwell. With his silver hair, piercing blue eyes, and a voice that exuded confidence, he was the epitome of a respectable leader. His speeches resonated with promises of prosperity and safety, assuring the townspeople that Hollow Creek would forever remain their haven. But beneath the surface of this idyllic town, a darkness lurked. Like a venomous serpent hidden amongst wildflowers, it waited for the opportune moment to strike. Unbeknownst to its unsuspecting residents, Hollow Creek harbored a terrifying secret, one that would shatter its peaceful facade and expose the evil that lay hidden beneath. The first sign that something was amiss came with the disappearance of young Emily Carter. Emily, a bright and cheerful 8-year-old with a contagious laugh, vanished without a trace one cool autumn night. One moment she was tucked into bed, her parents kissing her goodnight, and the next, she was gone. The tranquility of Hollow Creek was shattered. The laughter of children playing in the park was replaced by worried whispers. Fear, like a virus, began to spread through the once peaceful community. Parents held their children a little closer, their hearts heavy with a dread they couldn't explain. The police, usually occupied with minor offenses, found themselves facing a baffling mystery. Despite their best efforts, every lead turned cold. Emily Carter seemed to have vanished into thin air, leaving behind a void that threatened to consume the town. As days turned into sleepless nights, a collective unease settled over Hollow Creek. The once familiar streets now seemed menacing, the shadows lengthening with each passing hour. The townspeople, once so trusting, began to eye each other with suspicion. The disappearance of Emily Carter had exposed a chilling truth. Even in paradise, darkness could lurk, waiting to claim the innocent. The disappearance of Emily Carter hung over Hollow Creek like a shroud. The once vibrant town, now cloaked in fear, seemed to hold its breath. Gone were the carefree days of children playing in the park, replaced by an unsettling silence. The townspeople, their faces etched with worry, gathered in hushed groups, their conversations dominated by Emily's disappearance. Rumors spread like wildfire, each more outlandish than the last. Some whispered of a stranger in town, his eyes filled with malice. Others spoke of a shadowy figure lurking in the woods, snatching children under the cover of darkness. The weight of Emily's absence pressed heavily on her parents, their faces etched with a grief that threatened to consume them. They clung to the hope that their little girl would somehow find her way back to them. But as each day passed, their hope dwindled, replaced by a gnawing fear that they might never see their daughter again. The police, despite their tireless efforts, seemed no closer to finding Emily. Every lead they pursued led to a dead end. Every clue they uncovered raised more questions than answers. The mystery surrounding Emily's disappearance deepened, casting a long shadow over Hollow Creek, a constant reminder that their idyllic town was not immune to the darkness that plagued the world beyond its borders. We can't just sit around and do nothing. Something doesn't add up here.
I agree, Jack. There's more to this than what the adults are telling us.
I've been looking through old newspapers. There might be other disappearances that no one talks about.
And I've been checking online forums. Some people think there's a pattern here.
While the adults of Hollow Creek grappled with their fear and uncertainty, a group of teenagers refused to be paralyzed by the events that had shaken their town. Jack, Sarah, Megan, and Tyler, friends since childhood, felt a growing unease that went beyond the disappearance of Emily. They sensed that something more sinister was at play, something that chilled them to the bone. Jack, the unofficial leader of the group, possessed a sharp mind and an insatiable curiosity. He devoured every news article about Emily's disappearance, scrutinizing every detail, searching for something that the police might have missed. Sarah, known for her level-headedness and sharp intuition, shared Jack's suspicions. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss, that the adults were hiding something from them. Megan, the quiet observer of the group, had a keen eye for detail and a knack for remembering things that others often overlooked. She spent hours in the library, poring over old newspapers and local history books, searching for any mention of similar disappearances in Hollow Creek's past. Tyler, the tech whiz of the group, used his skills to gather information from online forums and social media, hoping to find any whispers or rumors that might shed light on Emily's fate. As the teenagers delved deeper into their investigation, they stumbled upon a series of unsettling coincidences.
I discovered that Emily's disappearance wasn't an isolated incident. Over the years, other children had vanished from Hollow Creek under mysterious circumstances, their disappearances shrouded in whispers and speculation.
These disappearances, though occurring decades apart, shared a chilling similarity. Each child had vanished without a trace, their belongings left untouched, as if they had simply ceased to exist. The police had dismissed these disappearances as tragic accidents or runaways. But the teenagers, their minds now attuned to the possibility of something more sinister, began to connect the dots. Local legends and folklore, once dismissed as mere superstition, took on a new and unsettling significance.
Tales of a malevolent entity that haunted the woods surrounding Hollow Creek, preying on the innocent, no longer seemed so far-fetched.
Whispers of ancient rituals and sacrifices, whispered in hushed tones by generations past, now echoed in their ears, fueling their suspicion that something dark and ancient had taken root in their town. Driven by a mixture of fear and determination, the group decided to take matters into their own hands. They knew that time was of the essence, that every passing moment could mean the difference between life and death for Emily and the other missing children.
Our first target was the police station. Under the cover of darkness, I managed to pick the lock of a side door, granting us access to the evidence room.
Inside, they found themselves surrounded by boxes filled with cold cases and unsolved mysteries. The air was thick with the smell of dust and forgotten things, a testament to the passage of time and the secrets that lay hidden within those walls. Using my knowledge of the town's layout, I guided them to the section where we hoped to find files related to Emily's case. After what felt like an eternity, we found it. A dusty box labeled Carter, Emily, missing person. As they sifted through the files, a chill ran down their spines. Photographs of the area where Emily was last seen revealed strange symbols etched into the bark of nearby trees. The symbols, crudely drawn, yet strangely intricate, seemed to pulsate with an unseen energy.
I quickly snapped pictures of the symbols with my phone, knowing that they held the key to unraveling the mystery.
Just as they were about to leave, Jack noticed a map pinned to a corkboard in the corner of the room. It was a map of Hollow Creek, but what made it stand out were the red dots marking the locations where Emily and the other missing children were last seen. To their horror, the dots formed a perfect pentagram, its points converging on the outskirts of town, deep within the woods that had always been the source of local legends and whispered fears. That night, Jack returned home, his mind racing with the implications of what they had found. The symbols, the map, the whispers of the past. Everything seemed to be pointing to something sinister, something that sent shivers down his spine. As he sat in his room, trying to make sense of the chaos that had become his life, he overheard a conversation. My father, a prominent figure in the community and a close confidant of Mayor Caldwell, was speaking on the phone, his voice low and urgent. Curiosity got the better of me, and I found myself creeping closer to the door, my ear pressed against the cold wood. The ceremony must go on as planned, his father hissed, his voice barely a whisper. We've come too far to turn back now. The offering must be made. My blood ran cold. The word ceremony and offering hung in the air, heavy with a significance I couldn't ignore. I had always known my father to be a man of ambition, driven by a desire for power and influence. But this was something else entirely. This was the language of secrets, of rituals whispered in the dead of night, of sacrifices made under the pale light of the moon. Mustering a courage he didn't know he possessed, Jack confronted his father. What ceremony? I demanded, my voice trembling with a mixture of fear and accusation. His father, his face now a mask of cold fury, dismissed his concerns, attributing his words to the stress of the situation. But Jack knew better. He had seen the look in his father's eyes, the way he had averted his gaze, the way his hands had trembled ever so slightly. His father was hiding something dark and terrible, and Jack was determined to uncover the truth, even if it meant shattering the facade of the life he had always known. Armed with newfound determination, I shared my chilling discovery with my friends. The map, the symbols, my father's cryptic words, all pointed towards a terrifying truth we could no longer ignore. The ritual site, nestled deep within the woods at the abandoned Blackwood estate, became their next target. The estate, once a symbol of prosperity and grandeur, now stood as a decaying monument to forgotten sins. Its windows, like vacant eyes, stared out at them, daring them to uncover the horrors that lay hidden within.
As we approached the estate, a sense of dread washed over us. The air grew heavy, as if the weight of countless unspoken secrets pressed down upon us.
The trees, their branches twisted and gnarled, seemed to reach out towards us, their leaves rustling like whispers in the wind.
Following the path indicated on the map, they stumbled upon a clearing, its silence broken only by the sound of their own breathing. In the center stood an ancient altar, its surface etched with the same symbols they had seen in the photographs and on the trees. The symbols, illuminated by the pale moonlight, seemed to pulse with an unnatural energy, as if beckoning them closer.
Oh my God, look at this. It's a child's bracelet. It's Emily's.
The realization hit them like a physical blow. This was no mere legend. This was real. This was where Emily and the other missing children had been taken. This was the devil's playground, a place where innocence was sacrificed in the name of some unspeakable power. The sight of Emily's bracelet sent a chill down their spines. The gravity of the situation settled upon them, heavy and suffocating. They were no longer dealing with mere suspicions or whispers in the dark. This was real, and the stakes had never been higher. The full moon hung heavy in the sky, casting long, eerie shadows through the trees. The chanting grew louder, more fervent, as the air crackled with an unseen energy. Panic threatened to consume us, but I knew we had come too far to back down now. We had to act, and we had to act fast. Tyler, create a diversion. Something, anything, to draw them away from the clearing.
I'll create a signal fire, something big enough to draw their attention, but not big enough to burn down the entire forest.
Tyler, his mind racing, scanned their surroundings. His eyes fell upon a pile of dry leaves and branches near the edge of the clearing. An idea, reckless but potentially life-saving, sparked in his mind. He knew the risks, but in that moment, with Emily's life hanging in the balance, he was willing to take them.
As Tyler worked feverishly to build his diversion, Jack, Sarah, and Megan crept closer to the clearing. The chanting reached a fever pitch, the words distorted and guttural, sending shivers down their spines.
Peering through the trees, they finally caught sight of the ritual in progress. A group of figures, their faces hidden by dark hoods, stood in a circle around the altar, their arms raised in unison. In the center of the circle, bound and gagged, were Emily and two other children, their eyes wide with terror. Jack's blood ran cold as he recognized one of the figures. It was his father, his face illuminated by the flickering light of the torches that surrounded the clearing. He moved with an unsettling grace, his voice a deep baritone that resonated through the night air, leading the others in their unholy chant. The realization hit Jack like a physical blow. His own father was deeply involved in this nightmare.
Suddenly, a bright orange glow erupted from the edge of the clearing, casting dancing shadows against the trees. Tyler, true to his word, had ignited his signal fire, and it was spreading rapidly, fueled by the dry leaves and branches he had gathered.
The chanting ceased abruptly as the figures turned towards the source of the light, their hoods falling back to reveal faces contorted with a mixture of surprise and rage.
"Now!" he shouted, bursting from the trees. Sarah and Megan right behind him. Chaos erupted as the teenagers charged into the clearing, their sudden appearance catching the cultists off guard. The children, their eyes widening with a glimmer of hope, struggled against their bonds, their cries for help muffled by the gags that covered their mouths. The air crackled with the sounds of battle, the clash of metal against metal, the thud of bodies colliding, the anguished cries of the cultists as their carefully orchestrated ritual descended into chaos. Jack, fueled by a primal fury he never knew he possessed, fought his way towards his father, his eyes locked on the man who had betrayed everything he held dear. Sarah, Her movement swift and precise, used her knowledge of self-defense to disarm the cultists. Her every strike aimed at incapacitating rather than killing. Megan, her small frame belying a fierce determination, focused on freeing the children, her nimble fingers working quickly to untie the ropes that bound them. The fire, now a raging inferno, cast an eerie orange glow over the scene, the flames licking at the edges of the clearing, consuming everything in their path. The cultists, their ranks dwindling, their carefully constructed facade of respectability shattered, began to panic. Some fled into the night, their dark robes billowing behind them like wings of shadow. Others, consumed by a blind fanaticism, continued to fight, their eyes burning with an unholy light. In the ensuing chaos, Jack finally reached his father. The two stood face to face, the air between them thick with unspoken accusations and the bitter sting of betrayal. "Why?" Jack choked out, his voice hoarse with a mixture of anger and disbelief. "How could you do this?" His father, his face a mask of cold fury, said nothing, his silence speaking volumes. He lunged at Jack, his hands outstretched, his fingers curled into claws. Jack, caught off guard, stumbled backward, barely avoiding his father's attack. The fight had been knocked out of him. He couldn't bring himself to fight the man who had raised him, the man who, despite everything, he still loved. He simply turned and walked away, his shoulders slumped with defeat, leaving his father to face the consequences of his actions. As dawn broke over Hollow Creek, the flames of the Blackwood estate fire finally began to die down, leaving behind a smoldering ruin and a community grappling with the aftermath of the horrifying truth that had been exposed. The idyllic facade of their town had been ripped away, revealing the dark underbelly that had festered beneath the surface for far too long. The arrests of Mayor Caldwell and several other prominent figures sent shockwaves through Hollow Creek. The very foundations of their community, built on trust and shared values, had been shaken to their core. Neighbors who had once exchanged friendly greetings now eyed each other with suspicion, their faces etched with a mixture of disbelief and betrayal. The children who had been rescued from the ritual, traumatized but alive, were reunited with their families. Their stories, heartbreaking accounts of fear and captivity, spread like wildfire through the town, fueling a wave of anger and disgust towards those who had orchestrated such unspeakable acts. But even as the community rallied around the victims, a deep sense of unease lingered. The scars of that night ran deep, a constant reminder that the darkness they had uncovered could easily resurface, its tendrils reaching out to claim new victims. Jack, Sarah, Megan, and Tyler found themselves hailed as heroes, their courage and quick thinking credited with saving the lives of the missing children. But their victory felt hollow, overshadowed by the knowledge of the evil they had witnessed, the betrayal they had experienced at the hands of those they had trusted most. Their families, once their safe havens, had become battlegrounds of conflicting emotions: anger, denial, grief, and a profound sense of loss. In the days that followed, a sense of normalcy slowly began to return to Hollow Creek. The initial shock and horror gradually gave way to a determination to rebuild, to reclaim their town from the grip of fear. But Jack, haunted by the events of that night, couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The darkness that had taken root in Hollow Creek ran deeper than they had imagined, its tendrils still entwined around their hearts. whispering promises of power and revenge. One evening, as the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the town, Jack found himself drawn back to the ruins of the Blackwood estate. The once grand manor now stood as a skeletal reminder of the horrors it had witnessed, its charred walls reaching toward the sky like accusing fingers. As he stood there, lost in thought, a movement in the shadows caught his eye. A figure emerged from the trees, its features obscured by the fading light. Jack's heart skipped a beat as he recognized the slight frame and long, dark hair. It was Emily. Relief washed over him, followed by a surge of concern. What was she doing here, in this place of shadows and sorrow? He called out to her, his voice echoing through the stillness of the evening air. She turned to face him, and for a moment, their eyes met. But the look in her eyes sent a chill down his spine. They were no longer the bright, innocent eyes of the girl he had known. They were cold, calculating, devoid of any warmth or recognition. "Emily," he whispered, his voice trembling with a mixture of fear and disbelief. A slow, chilling smile spread across her face, and she spoke, her voice a raspy whisper that seemed to emanate from the very depths of the earth. "It's not over," she hissed, her words laced with a venomous hatred that made Jack's blood run cold. "It's just beginning." The darkness that had haunted Hollow Creek had found a new vessel, a young girl, her innocence corrupted, her soul forever bound to the evil that had consumed their town. As darkness enveloped the ruins of the Blackwood estate, Jack knew, with a certainty that chilled him to the bone, that their fight was far from over. The whispers of evil had returned, more insidious, more powerful than ever before. And this time, they threatened to consume everything in their path.